It's a small class today, so if you don't mind, move up in the front and we'll start with our prayers. Om Sada Shiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Pariyantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Om Shri Radha Krishnaya Namaha. Om Shri Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. You can move up in the front because my voice doesn't project. I don't think we're going to get too many people today because of the flurries. All of you backbenchers, if you don't mind, move up in the front. Unless you particularly want to sit at the back, that's fine. But it just makes it more fun to teach when everybody's together. We'll start with our prayers. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karvavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Mavid Vishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you for braving the few flurries that we had and coming in person for the class. We are going to use this verse. Do I need to forward anything? No, right? No, we are good for now. Yeah. So, this is the first quote-unquote question of this Prashnottara Ratnamalika, and we'll just use this as a prayer verse every time we meet. It's not really a prayer, but it might help remind us that we are here to collect ratnas, precious stones. So you can listen and repeat. Kakhalu nalang kriyate, kakhalu nalang kriyate, drishtartha sadhana patiyan, drishtartha sadhana patiyan, amuya kantastitaya, Prashnottara Ratnamalikaya, Prashnottara Ratnamalikaya. And we saw this verse, we'll just repeat it too. We saw this verse in the last time, just to get back volume. Can you up the volume there? So another reason for sitting closer in the front. Bhagavan kim upadeyam, Bhagavan kim upadeyam, Guru vachanam, heyam api kim, akaryam, ko guruhu, adhigata tattvaha, Shishyahitaya udyata satatam. So we saw this verse last time, this question last time, this verse. Actually, like I said, they're in verse form. We're just going to chant it as prose. So this verse talked about what is the characteristics of a true guru. How do you recognize a true guru in order to follow his or her teachings? And the two words we saw were Shrotriyavit, the one who is learned, well articulated. And here you have the word Adhigata Tattvaha is equivalent to Brahma Nishtha, A guru, a person who is established in Brahman and always agendaless, ready to help, satatam, always. Tvaritam kim kartavyam vidusham, tvaritam kim kartavyam vidusham, samsara santati chedaha, samsara santati chedaha. So vidusham, for the wise or of the wise. So Sanskrit doesn't have, like when you say, if you have to say my book, there is no way to say my book in Sanskrit. You have to say the book of mine. So vidusham is of the wise, but it really means the wise. Kim kartavyam, what is to be done? What is to be done by the wise people, of the wise people? And tvaritam, quickly. What is to be done quickly? Samsara santati chedaha. Ched, it's a compound word, chedaha, the cutting or the breaking or stopping of what? Santati. Santati is the flow, and the flow of what? Samsara. Samsara has many different ways that it can be explained. Pujya Swami-ji had often used the terms a life of becoming. So always feeling like something is wanting. I am not quite okay the way I am. So that is one way of defining samsara. Cycle of samsara, it's really bondage. And bondage because of what? The root meaning of samsara, sru means to flow, that which keeps on flowing, sarati, that which keeps on flowing. And this samsara can be described as due to avidya, kama, and karma. Avidya, ignorance, due to non-recognition or ignorance of our true nature, of our essential nature. What happens? We have desires, kamas. And we think these desires, well, we don't think, we know, we feel we have to fulfill these desires to feel complete, to be okay. And most of the desires are external, so we do karma, we do actions, we seek to fulfill our desires from doing actions. Let's say an example of this is something that I feel a lot, I want to have a clean desk, you know, I'd like to have a clean house, a clean surrounding. So that's a desire. I try and fulfill the desire, we go crazy cleaning. You have a clean desk, you have a clean environment, and then you sit down and say, my house looks so neat, my house looks so nice. And how long does that cleanliness last? Maybe a week, 2 weeks, and then it's going to go back to what it was before. How about if you have a desire? Swamiji has used this example of having a desire to buy a new house. Nothing wrong with the desire, so just let me back up. Having desires is absolutely normal. Having a desire for a new car, having a desire for a new house, having a desire to have children, to have grandchildren, perfectly normal. But what Vedanta says is if we think this desire, fulfilling this particular desire is going to make us complete, is going to make us happy, then we are in for a rude shock. And many of you raising children know that only too well when the child hits the teenage age, when the child becomes a teenager. Or if you're grandparents, you have a new grandbaby, and it's a wonderful thing, it's a wonderful blessing, until the grandchild refuses to listen to what you want to say, or what you're going to say, or refuses to listen to you. So having these desires for a new house, for a new car, for grandchildren, perfectly normal. But the problem comes, and that's where we get into bondage, we get bound, because we get into samsara because we think by fulfilling this desire, I'm going to be okay permanently. That's never the case. The desire, fulfillment of a desire gives us temporary happiness. There's no doubt about that. Who doesn't like to see a grandchild, a little newborn baby? Who doesn't want to have a new house? The first time you buy a house and walk into that new, well-cleaned, perfectly pristine house, or who doesn't want a new car? You get into the car, and I don't know why people have this, the smell of the new car and the seats is very, I don't know what that is, but it gives you a sense of accomplishment, and nothing wrong with that. But if you think, how long is the new car going to be new? The moment you drive it out of the car dealer, it's already started depreciating in value, right? So thinking that external sources will give us happiness, will help us fulfill our desires, puts us back into this loop of avidya. Because of our ignorance, we have desires, kama, and then we do actions, we do karma to get these desires fulfilled. I don't know if any of you listened to Swami Tadatmananda-ji's New Year message. He usually gives a New Year talk. And his message was, for those of you who didn't listen to it, he's talking about martyatvam. Martyatvam means mortality. And what a topic for New Year, talking about us being mortal. But he equates martyatvam to samsara. So samsara, this cycle, is equated to mortality. And then further, he defines this martyatvam or samsara as constant stress, anxiety, and dreaded fear of the 3 Ds. And he loves to use acronyms and, short forms, and it helps us remember also. The 3 Ds: decline because of old age, decay because of disease, and finally death. So we are constantly, maybe not, when we are younger, when you're in your 20s, who thinks about death? Nobody's thinking about old age when you're in your 20s. Once you hit 50, 60, 70, when you hit 80, when you hit 90, definitely a lot more. Because the body is going through its changes, the mind is going through its changes. So we are constantly stressed, we are constantly bound because of these stresses, of these thoughts of getting sick, of getting old, of dying. I've spoken to many, I wouldn't call old, let me use the politically correct term, seniors, many seniors, and most of them don't fear death. Actually, many of them say, oh, I'm ready to die. I'm okay with death. But the one thing that almost everyone uniformly doesn't want, especially when you're getting up there in age, is not to become dependent. So that's another D. You don't want to become dependent on your children, on anybody else, on the help, or move into an assisted living, become dependent there. Why fear dependence? Why do we fear dependence? Tell me, throughout our lives, right from the moment we are born, are we not dependent on someone or the other? When you're a baby, you're completely dependent on the parents or whoever whoever's the caretaker. You can't do anything. And then as you grow older, in school, say for example in grade school, you're dependent on your teachers for teaching you. You continuously depend on your parents for providing for you. until you turn to be an adult. And then when you become an adult, you're dependent on your job. You need a job to make finances. When you get married, you're dependent on your children, or on your spouse. Then when you get children, you take care of them, but you come to a stage in your life that you are dependent on them. So dependence is not a bad thing. I think most of us fear dependence because we are thinking of this end part of our life that we lose all our freedom. Living with our children, we have to do what they say. So that becomes a source of fear, a source of stress. But we have to recognize that we are dependent our whole lives on something, someone, or the other. So fear of dependence is really not warranted because we don't live our lives in isolation. We live our lives in families and societies, in countries. So being dependent is not a bad thing. What we can do to counter this dependence, especially when we are not up there in age yet, is you reach out to people and help others so that you get a little more punya karma, you're gathering more punya karma. Hopefully you don't have to be quote unquote dependent completely as you grow older. So dependence is not a bad thing, but that fear is very real for many people. So how are some practical ways to break this cycle, to break this samsara of avidya, kama, and karma? One, I mentioned in the first class, staying in constant touch with the teachings. If you've listened to the Bhagavad Gita, go back and listen to it again. It's almost like you have to put on your scientist hat. If you are designing an experiment, but you don't quite know the nitty-gritties of the experiment, you go back and study, figure out what you need to perform that experiment. So you go back to the drawing board. Now you perform that experiment, but it fails. Back to the drawing board. If you have studied the Bhagavad Gita, by the way, this example is not quite a one-to-one correlation. Bhagavad Gita will never fail you, unlike an experiment. So if you have studied the Bhagavad Gita and then you're going through a difficult aspect in your life, and you say, hey, I don't know what I should do, go back to studying it. Go back to looking at it at a deeper level. And then if you're in the lab, if you come back, you do an experiment, it's not worked, you go back and test it. So that Bhagavad Gita is equivalent, going back and listening to it again and again is equivalent to our Shravana and Manana. And then going back to contemplate on it is our Nididhyasana. How do we apply what we have heard in our lives? A very simple way to stay constantly with these teachings is read 1 or 2 verses of Bhagavad Gita every day. And the reason I'm really bringing Bhagavad Gita because it's so available, easily available, the interpretations, the right meanings, the sources are available. And when you read 1 or 2 verses every day, see how you can apply it to your life. Another way to break the cycle of samsara is through satsanga. Satsanga literally means sangha, collection of sat people, good people. It's supposed to be one of the best spiritual practices. We have satsanga every Sunday here. Swamiji offers, answers questions. Satsanga in different traditions is conducted differently. So here, satsanga is question answers. Many times, satsanga is, a chanting or singing a bhajan, excuse me. So satsanga is, many advanced students and think that, oh, some of the questions that come during satsanga, and satsanga, the students who come are a mixed bag. Some of them are very early, have heard coming to Vedanta for the first time. Some of them have heard it for donkey's years. So I've often heard some senior students, not age-wise senior, spiritually senior students say, oh, this is too basic for me. I feel it's not helping me. It's not worth my time. And it's unfortunate because satsanga is a great time for nididhyasana. When you hear an answer, you may know the answer. Many times, I've listened to Swamiji so much that sometimes I know what he's going to say. But the words are fine, words I might know, but do I know it as a fact for myself? So satsanga can be a great opportunity for nididhyasana. Another way is to dedicate our actions to God, which means increase karma yoga, your attitude, by which you do your actions. So these are all practical ways to break or not be bogged down by samsara, by the cycle. Through bhakti, bhakti can include puja, meditation, chanting, bhajans. So I know in the south they have this nama sankirtanam groups, which basically they're chanting, singing names of different forms of God, and they're very popular. It just puts you in a very, almost like a trance-like mindset. Not that you want to be in a trance, but it's so absorbing. So you can be listening to bhajans and get completely absorbed so that you can know what is, not be bogged down by samsara again. But the ultimate solution to come out of samsara, and we all know that, is through recognizing your essential nature, Atma. Recognizing that you as Atma is non-separate from anything and everything, not subject to samsara. So the word says tvaritam, quickly. Of course, for most of us, this quickly can mean years, decades, lifetimes, whole life, many lifetimes. So this tvaritam is for the vidusham, the wise people. And if you aren't being able to get there tvaritam, don't worry, we're all in good company here. Kim mokshataror bijam, kim mokshataror bijam, samyak jnanam kriya siddham, samyak jnanam kriya siddham. So kim mokshatar, the taroho becomes, while reading taror because of sandhi. So bijam, kim bijam. What is the seed? What is the seed for what? Mokshataru. Mokshataru. Taru means a sprout or a shoot. So what is the bijam? What is the seed for the mokshataroho, for the sprout of moksha? Moksha here can mean freedom. And again, freedom from what? Freedom from the samsara we just discussed in the earlier part of the verse, from this life of becoming, from this constant stress, anxiety, and fear. So how can this be siddham, accomplished? How can this be accomplished? How can it be fulfilled? How can it be gained or acquired? And the answer is samyak jnanam. So samyak, because of sandhi it becomes ga. Samyak jnanam is clear knowledge. Clear knowledge of what? Of your true essential nature. And then how is this clear knowledge, how is this samyak jnanam acquired? Kriya, for Sanskrit students, that kriya siddham, a compound, can be broken in two ways. Kriya asiddham. Siddham means acquired. I got a bunch of meanings for that. Kriya, sorry. Kriya asiddham, it can be accomplished not by action. Siddham is accomplished, asiddham not accomplished. Through what? Through action. And why? Because this knowledge, this samyak jnanam, is born of a pramana, a means of knowing. You cannot become something that you already are. You cannot become liberated. You cannot become free because your essential nature is already free. Your essential nature is already divine. So what do you have to do? What kriya, what action do you have to do to gain this knowledge? There's nothing you have to do. You have to know this only through knowledge. You have to know that you are not bound by samsara. You are moksha, always muktaha, you're always free. You can gain this through knowledge alone. The other way this compound can be broken is kriya siddham. And in this verse it doesn't apply, but I just thought I'll add a little bit. So siddham is accomplished, kriya by action. So this seems contradictory to break this compound in this word. There is a school of thought, a philosophy, a school of thought known as Jnana Karma Samuchaya Vadas or Vadis. So samuchaya is combination, and combination. So this school of philosophy believes that jnana and karma, the samuchaya, the combination of jnana and karma, of jnanam and karma, gives moksha, is the cause of moksha. And so they suggest that both karma, which in their terms is rituals, karma and jnanam, knowledge, are required to gain moksha. And Advaita Vedanta refutes this completely, saying knowledge alone gives moksha. If knowledge alone gives moksha, why are we doing karma? Why do anything? You can just say, oh, I'm free, I'm liberated, I don't have to do anything. And the reason we do karma, and many of you may have heard this already, is to gain antakarana shuddhi, is to gain purification, shuddhi, of the antakaranas, of our mind and buddhis. So by purifying the mind, how do we purify the mind? By doing some of the things we mentioned before, bhakti, meditation, yoga, prayers. This purification, we get our minds become more pure. When I say pure, meaning our negative tendencies become less in the mind. Our sattvika, our purity, our good tendencies increase. This gives us adhikaritvam. Adhikaritvam is preparedness. Preparedness, it prepares our mind for what? For this knowledge. So Vedanta, Advaita Vedanta absolutely negates that karma is needed for knowledge. This is a very sophisticated topic that has been discussed a lot in commentaries. So karma alone, jnanam alone is the means of knowledge. Karma helps us purify our mind. So action or karma is an indirect means, because we need to first purify our mind, make us qualified so that we can get this knowledge. So we start with karma. Remember in last class, karma was, as we said, as duties. That's the least common denominator. We begin there, and then we convert that karma to karma yoga. And what is karma yoga? What is the attitude by which you're doing your duties? What is the attitude by which you do any actions? We become an adhikari after converting our karmas to karma yoga, and then we become our minds, we become qualified to gain knowledge, to gain moksha, and live conflict free. And remember, this is not a linear process, right? You cannot say, I will do all my karmas, I will convert all my karmas into karma yoga, and then I will get knowledge. It doesn't work that way, right? Our minds don't work like that. We keep taking one step, two steps forward, one step back in our day-to-day living as well. You know, sometimes, some days you get triggered very quickly, triggered in the sense emotionally charged, emotionally triggered very quickly. Some, you work on that, and you, next time around, if you worked on that, maybe instead of, so if somebody shouts at you, you retort back immediately. if you continue to work on karma as karma yoga, maybe the next time somebody shouts at you, instead of retorting back immediately, actually you might still retort back immediately if it's just happened the next day, but you work on it some more. The next time somebody, the same person usually, shouts at you or pushes your button, you might retort back immediately, but then you think, oh, I shouldn't have said that. But that thought comes maybe not immediately. It might come 5 minutes later, 10 minutes later, 1 day later, but at least it's come. So that means you're working on yourself. So it's not a linear process. Karma, karma yoga, jnanam, we keep going back and back. And in chapter 13, beginning from verse 8, there are about 20 values that are described that make one adequately prepared, beginning with amanitvam, adambitvam. And Pujya Swamiji, I was told that Pujya Swamiji found this was so important, a set of 20 values from verse 8 to 11 in chapter 13 was so important that at the start of every 3-year course that he taught, this was the first thing they would start learning, the students would start teaching, because it takes a while for us to really change our behavior. Kah patyataraha, dharmaha, dharma. Kashuchir iha, yasya manasam shuddham, yasya manasam shuddham. So kaha patyatara. Patya means fit, suitable, or proper. Like in Ayurveda, you might have heard the word patyam. So people who follow Ayurveda, there are many dietary restrictions when you're taking this dietary restrictions are called patyam. So you're not supposed to drink coffee. I think coffee is a big one when you're taking Ayurvedic medicines. And this tara, patyatara, tara is a suffix that's added on in 2 words in Sanskrit. Like you have good, better, best, that ER and EST. So it gives you the comparative degree and superlative degree. So kaha patyataraha. So what is most beneficial? Which regimen is most useful? And the one-word answer is dharma. So remember, this text focuses on a lot on dharma. Dharma is a very loaded word. It has a lot of meanings. You can just translate it here as a life of values. It just says righteousness. What does righteousness mean? The word dharma comes from the Sanskrit verbal root dhr. Dhr means to hold or to sustain. And like I said, it has many meanings. For example, when you say the dharma of water is to be wet, so that means the quality or the nature of water or the property of water is to be wet. I looked up the dictionary for other meanings of dharma. It says prescribed conduct. It can mean duty. It can mean justice. And if you go back to the root meaning dhr, that which sustains, is dharma. In Bhagavad Gita, the Charama Shloka, chapter 1866, which many of you might have heard, when Krishna tells Arjuna, Sarva dharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam vraja, give up all your dharmas. Does it mean duties there? Does it mean properties? Give up all your values? No, what it means there, so there it has a very different meaning. It refers to all actions. And what does that mean? Give up all your actions? It means recognize that you as Satchidananda Atma are actionless. The body, mind do whatever needs to be done, but Atma is actionless. And it also can be loosely, I think the commentators take it as rituals, because in old ancient times, rituals were very commonly done to acquire punya and papa, to acquire merit for future lives. So give up all those. And in that word, dharma, dharman parityaja, giving up all actions, the dharma stands for both dharmic actions and adharmic actions. Because basically, at the end of chapter 18, Krishna is reminding, Lord Krishna is reminding Arjuna that you're really not the doer of anything. We can take it as righteousness, life of values, doing the right thing. Doing the right thing comes at many levels. At an individual level, we do the right thing for ourselves and for those around us, like our family. We have to do the right thing at the family level. A bigger level, a community level, doing the right thing for the community, doing the right thing for society, doing the right thing for the state, for the country, for the environment. There are so many aspects of dharma that we have to be thinking about so that we become better people, and we and we can live a conflict-free life. And you've heard this saying before, dharmo rakshati rakshitaha, a famous quote. This is from the Manusmriti, and it is also mentioned in the Mahabharata. Dharma eva hato hanti, dharmo rakshati rakshitaha. So in the first line, hataha dharmaha, destroyed. Hata means killed or destroyed. Destroyed dharma, eva hanti. Hanti means to kill. So destroyed dharma will destroy you. In the second line, rakshitaha dharmaha, dharma which is rakshitaha, which is protected or preserved, protects you, which means if you protect dharma, it will protect you. Tasmat dharmaha na hantavyaha. Therefore, dharma should not be destroyed. And ma naha dharmaha hataha avadhit. It really is the same saying, dharma should not be, ma naha for us, ma avadhit. These are for Sanskrit students. Any guess on the tense? This is the dreaded aorist third person singular. For those of you who didn't understand that, ignore it. So dharma should not be destroyed, mean dharma not be destroyed for us. I give this, I think some of you have heard this example of Puja Swamiji's example when he talks about protecting dharma and destroying dharma. So when you rub your hand or your back against a bark of a tree, who gets hurt? It's not the tree, unless it's a twig, then maybe you'll break the twig. But if you take the raw bark of a tree, your back or your hand gets scratched. So dharma is like that. When you rub against dharma, it rubs you back. But if you protect a tree, it gives blooms and it grows and it gives us so much protection. Shade, flowers, fruits, whatever you want to say. I lost my train of thought. So if you keep on, So many times people will ask, I always do the right thing. My brother-in-law seems to be doing the wrong thing always, yet he is prospering. You know, he's got this new car, new house, he's cutting corners, but he's doing so well. But I'm doing everything right, but I'm not progressing in the worldly sense. Dharma in the, doing adharmic actions in the short run may seem beneficial, but in the long run, dharma always wins out. So if you go back to look at the metaphor of the tree, in the short run, you get hurt by rubbing your back against the tree. In the long run, if you keep on rubbing your back against the tree every single day, you're probably going to need a skin transplant because you're going to be so raw So in the long run, adharma is not the way to go. And we read this part already. Kaha shuchihi iha. So again, this becomes shuchir iha. So shuchi is cleanliness or purity. Who is pure? Kaha shuchihi. Iha means here or in this world. Who is considered to be pure? And the answer is yasya manasam shuddham. Yasya, the one whose mind, manasam, mind and heart are pure, shuddham. And what does it mean to have a pure mind or heart? And this is very well explained in chapter 16 of the Bhagavad Gita, which is entitled Divine and Demonic Traits or Qualities. Because many of us don't know Sanskrit, I suggested earlier one of the ways to break the cycle of samsara is to read a verse or two of Bhagavad Gita every day. Take up the English translation that Swamiji has, the blue book. I think that is just an amazing gift Swamiji has given all of us, because without knowing Sanskrit, you can understand, get the essence of the Bhagavad Gita. So take up this chapter 16 and read it in English to get to know what the divine and demonic qualities are. Basically, what we need to do, how to get a pure mind, is to minimize our negative traits, our negative qualities. And what most people, when I mention negative qualities, what comes to mind for most people? Anyone? Anyone? Anger. Anger. Fear. Somebody said fear. Hatred, jealousy. Anything else? Criticism, lust. Okay. Anybody have anything else that perhaps they're shy to share? Greed. Arrogance. We got so many of them. So this chapter, the chapter 16, anger, resentment, jealousy, arrogance, pride. How about desires which are not dharmic? Not dharmic, not legitimate desires. We said desires are part of the human, it's normal to have desires, but how about desires that are not dharmic, are not legitimate? Greed mentioned. How about biases? The othering. In our minds, we compartmentalize people into good and bad, desirable, not desirable, my friend, my enemy, I don't care. We have compartmentalizations. We have this tendency to othering, to consider, I'm sorry? Indifference, yeah. So when I say I don't care, that's what I mean. I don't care about this person. Hurt. Hurt is another negative tendency. How many of us, and there's so many people who unfortunately, towards the end of their life, they regret all the hurt they have caused others. What can you do at the end of your life to go back and undo that hurt that you have caused? And a big one that we may not think about is self-criticism, self-judgment, self-deprecation. We not only judge others, but we beat ourselves up also. We judge ourselves to be good or bad in our own eyes. And many times, of course, we carry a lot of childhood baggage, but these are the negative traits. So we can try to minimize these traits, and we can also strive to improve the positive qualities that we have. Qualities like compassion. Compassion can be cultivated. There is a lot of science that says you can cultivate compassion, you can cultivate tolerance, resiliency, self-control, patience, modesty, courage. All these are positive traits that we can be thinking to work on. Again, this chapter 13, I go back and again to that because I just find those verses are, at a practical level, they are so important for us to use to become a better person. And the verse begins with amanitvamadam vitvam ahimsa kshantirarjavam acharyopasanam shaucham. So this verse is talking about shuchihi. Shuchihi is purity, shaucham is purity. What do we do to increase this? And Vedantic way of understanding purity of the mind is not really identifying with the mind and the thoughts that come, the desires that come up, the negative traits that come up, not identifying, not associating with them, and being in the present moment, not going back to all the hurt and the guilt and the anger and the frustration and everything that we constantly go back, our minds constantly tend to go back to. So not attaching to the past negative traits, not associating with them, and recognizing that I am as Atma, am completely, have nothing to do with the mind and body. The mind is going to do whatever it wants to do. We can see one more verse. Kah panditaha, kah viveki, kim visham, avadhirana gurusho. So kaha panditaha, panditaha, who is a scholar, and here not a scholar in the sense of somebody who has a PhD, but who is a scholar, and the answer is viveki. Vivekaha is discrimination, and again, so viveki is one who has discrimination, and discrimination, the word discrimination not used in the a negative, like a social justice context that we hear of in the news these days. So viveki is one who has discerned what is to be done and what is not to be done. In this text, in this context, viveki is one who knows what is to be done, what is not to be done. In Tattva Bodha, the text, it's an independent text of Shankaracharya, it gives a definition of vivekaha, what is discrimination. It's defined as nitya anitya vastu vivekaha. Vivekaha, discerning what? Nitya vastu, what is real, what is the real thing, and anitya vastu, what is mithya or not real. So really the discernment of the permanent or the real, which is Atma, and the impermanent or the unreal, which vastu, which is mithya. And kim visham, visham is poison. What is poison? Avadhirana. Avadhirana is a feminine noun meaning disrespect or despise or repulse towards whom? Gurushu, towards the guru. And this might be a little jarring for most of us because, we have such, if you've grown up in the Indian culture, you have a lot of respect for gurus, especially those who are in sannyasis, who are in orange robes, but any teachers in general. So this gurushu towards the guru not only means guru, but includes our teachers, our parents, our elders, and I would add, why stop there? So how about so kim visham, not having poison, not having disrespect towards our children, our co-workers, our somebody who cuts you off on the road when you're driving back. How about not having disrespect for them? They're also human. They're dealing with their own issues, and that at that moment, perhaps whatever issue was bothering them got them to cut you off. But what happens when somebody cuts us off, and especially in the winter when the windows are all turned up? You're cursing in your car. Does the other person hear it? No, he or she has no idea what you're saying, and does it affect them? No. But how do you feel? How do you feel when you get irritated by that person cutting you off? So showing disrespect, removing disrespect, or removing this visham, poison, towards any human being, not only gurus and teachers whom we revere, but any human being. And why is guru emphasized here? Gurushu avadhirana? Because in our tradition, guru is revered to the extent of being a god. And this verse from the Guru Stotram, Guru, many of you know this, Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnuhu, Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha. Guru is Brahma, Brahmaji, Guru is Vishnu, Guru is Maheshwara, Guru is Deva, Guru is, so Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva are the trilogy that is mentioned in the Puranas. So Guru is not only a personification of manifested gods like Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva, but Guru Sakshat Parabrahma. Guru is in reality an embodiment of Parabrahma, of the highest truth of Brahman. Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Therefore, I bow down or I worship the Guru. So I had mentioned in maybe our first class or that Guru, or last class, I don't remember, who is a Guru? A Guru is one who walks the walk and talks the talk, not only in the form of manifest God, but in the form of unmanifest Brahman. And the reason being that is because Guru, if a true Guru, is a Shrotriyavit and a Brahmanishtha. So the one who talks, teaches us the right thing, and who is a Adhigata Tattvaha, who has gone beyond, who is an embodiment of that eternal Brahman, which we are all trying to learn and recognize in ourselves. So that is why this Guru disrespect towards Avadhirana, towards Guru, is considered to be poison. Okay, that's about brings us to the time for ending our class. We'll end with our prayer. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah, Sarve Santu Niramayaha, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschit Dukkha Bhag Bhavet, Asato Ma Satkamaya, Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya, Mrityor Ma Amritangamaya. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Thank you all.